Welcome back, everybody, to the Financial Advisors Workshop. This is the show where we interview tremendous leaders in the financial advisory industry, people who are unique and doing great things for the public. And today we have a very unique story of a lady with us today, Nicole B. Simpson, and she's a certified financial planner, financial advisor in New York City, right, Nicole?
I am actually in Piscataway, New Jersey.
Now you're in New Jersey. You were in
I
New
am,
York.
yes.
Good. Well, great. Well, welcome to the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, you have a great practice and you have a great history. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got in the business and then got on bring us up to Harvest Wealth, which is what you run now, right?
Absolutely. So I have been in the securities industry for over 30 years. And every time I say that, people look and go, how is that so? I went on a field trip in the fourth grade down to the New York Stock Exchange, and it is something that resonated with me. And I was always good with math. And so my entrance way, when I could not play basketball, which is what I desired to do originally, when I was unable to play basketball because I became a teenage mother, there was a job interview, so I thought that said it had a 90% um, acceptance rate. And I was like, well, I'm definitely going to get it. It was actually 93%. And it turned out to be the school called the American Institute of Finance. And so I went into that school, realized that what I loved about being on the New York Stock Exchange for that trip, this was that business. And so the president or the CEO of that particular school said that I had a knack for it. And so he guided me into the securities industry. And my first job was working in operations in 1991. And he said, when you get there, when the doors open, go for your Series 7. I didn't know what he meant at the time. I did not have a college degree, but I studied, self-studied for my Series 7, 8 months with a young baby, passed it, and then I moved from operations into being a registered sales assistant. And
Yep.
that was the story thereafter. I began to work the industry from the bottom all the way up to where it is that I am today.
Great. So then how long were you an assistant before you became an advisor on your own?
I became an advisor in 1997, and I started off as a junior partner in a partnership when I went to a regional firm. And we began to focus on women and wealth, so women acquiring wealth, single women, women that were highly compensated, solo entrepreneurs and practitioners. And I began to get into financial planning at that time. So there is a distinct difference between investment advisory and then financial planning. Financial planning is more holistic. And so at that time, I started studying for my CFP designation. And I had acquired my Series 7, my Series 63, my Series 65, and my life and health insurance. And so I really wanted to be a leader at an early age. And so at the age of 30, 10 years into the business, almost 10 years, I acquired my CFP practitioner designation. And
Excellent.
it was really a great time for me at that time.
Good. So you built up a practice and how many families do you serve now?
I probably have about 125 to 130 households. My focus is on legacy planning. I do deal with families, and so I may deal with the parents, the grandparents, and the next generation of youth. I started my own practice when I ultimately left the Nicoles group, which is where I worked in the team. I started my own practice in 2007. And that came after sort of struggling in the business between 2001 and 2007. I needed to do something different. And I wanted to shape a practice that would be more meaningful. And so I just literally stepped out on faith. I had years of experience under my belt, but I had also expertise and my own traumatic experience that made me want to deal with clients that were going through what it is that I was going through. And so that's how I wound up being into my practice.
Then to your own practice. Good. Well, that traumatic experience is a unique story. Why don't we talk about that? Uh,
Yeah. On September 11th in 2001, I was on the 73rd floor of Two World Trade Center. And I was at work and I had, my assistant, my intern, and my receptionist. We were in Tower 2. When Tower 1 was hit, the lights flickered off and on in Tower 2, and the building began to sway. But I wasn't immediately going to leave. We didn't know what had transpired overall, but I walked over to my partner's window and I saw a burning paper and I felt the unction to get out of the building. And so we all know that 9/11 was one of the most horrific attacks on US soil. And so as I began to walk down the steps from the 73rd floor, they were saying over the PA system, Tower 2 is secure, Tower 2 is secure. You don't have to evacuate the building, Tower 2 is secure. And I kind of, Brian, felt comfort in hearing that. So I was on my way back upstairs because, quite honestly, as a financial advisor, if you're not sitting talking to clients, you're not earning any money. So I was on my way back upstairs and I got to the elevator, literally got on the elevator and was prompted, and I say it's a divine intervention, prompted to get off of the elevator. And I'm so glad that I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here with you today. The elevator doors closed, and not even 30 seconds later, Tower 2, the building that I was still in, was hit. When the building was hit, the elevators came crashing down and fire exploded out of the elevators. And so there were people alongside of me that didn't make it that day. But fortunately for me, the elevator that I was standing in front of did not open. And so I don't have a sense of the time, but I eventually saw an exit and we began to walk down from the 44th floor all the way down to the main entrance. And when I got to the main entrance, it's where you were able, if you looked long enough, for those that can recall what the World Trade Centers look like, it was all glass. And so you would see bodies falling. And so I thank God for the police officers and the firefighters because they made us go further into the building. And we went downstairs where all of the shopping malls and the stores were. So it was like the Strawberries, the Disney store. But they had us to come up out of a place that was away from the direct impact of to World Trade Center. And so I came up where the Barnes and Nobles and the Krispy Kreme were. And when I came up out of there, that's how we were able to evacuate out of the building. And I remember walking and feeling the unction not to turn around. And so I get to Broadway and I finally turn around. And Brian, it was a most beautiful day. I don't know if people can recall September 11th was primary election day. It was first day of school for the state of New Jersey. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I looked and I see the airplane hanging out of the building that I had just come out of. And the other devastating aspect is that there were people above the airplane. And so their lives were forever altered because they were not going to survive. And so it didn't hit me right then and there. I began to walk alongside, and then Tower 2 comes crashing down. And when Tower 2 comes crashing down, it was like we were in pitch black darkness in the early morning of the day, which is just so surreal, even as I think about it today. But what changed my course of life, my practice, and what it is that I do today is that when I got to Battery Park City, which is where my partner was living at the time, there were police officers and security personnel that were evacuating the residents of Battery Park City. And no one was leading me to where we ultimately went by the water and we were able to be evacuated via ships. And I was given a choice to either go to Jersey City or to Staten Island. And so it hit me that the wealthy had a plan in place for the unknown and the inevitables, long before something this dire or this drastic could ever happen. So something as simple as getting out of a bad situation, there was an evacuation plan in place. And my community, those that I worked with, those people that were in the World Trade Center, we did not know that when we were there. And so it changed how it is that I not only did business, but it made me focus on how do we plan for the unknown. Now, I will say this, Brian, other variables or factors contributed to my practice because I went from making six figures at the tender age of 30 down to making less than $20,000. And here I am. I'm a financial advisor. I'm a CFP practitioner, and all of the things about not having, emergency cash or being a mother of two children, married. Your income, when it's taken away, really affects what it is that you do, how it is that you live. How are you going to pay the mortgage? And so I wanted to make sure that what I was experiencing in real time, that I can help people to build slowly but steadily, build so that if these things should happen, they would be able to be better prepared for the unknown and the invariables in life that it will throw their way. Now, if I add one other caveat, because this is important, I was also sick. I didn't know. I couldn't breathe. 9/11, the fumes and everything impacted me from an asthma perspective, from a COPD perspective, so much so that I was diagnosed permanently partially disabled. So if I wasn't the walking embodiment of why people need comprehensive plans, then I don't know who is. And so that has been what has driven me to create and really build a practice called Harvest Wealth Financial.
Nice, nice. That's a great lead in. Well, good. We'll tell. So what a tragic experience, but you've turned it around to turn it into something that is led you in a charge throughout your career, which is really great, really great. So sorry to hear about that. And you saw a lot of death and destruction, and but now you're helping people prepare for if something ever were to happen like that again, or just the inevitable of death, right?
Yeah.
Whenever it is.
And it
Well,
is.
good.
It's not just death. And that's one of the things that I want people to understand. A catastrophic illness, a job loss, these are other things that can affect or impact you financially. And so building wealth, that's one part of how someone can live free, how someone can live without, any cares about what's going to happen financially. But the protection is equally as important so that you and your family can not only get to a certain standard of living, but you can maintain it. And then you can also ensure that you're leaving something for the next generation. So it's a holistic approach of dealing with all areas of comprehensive planning.
Great. Well, good. So how did you get clients then? Like when you first started the practice, and then how you initially, and then how do you get clients now?
And so I began to share my story. I did a lot of speaking on the lecture circuit. Initially, it was out of my painful experience. And so then I began to recognize I'm equipped to tell people how to begin to build wealth. I was that CFP practitioner. So I started saying, these are the steps that you can take to start to overcome, financial devastation in your life. This is how you can begin to rebuild. And so I tell people all the time, start where you're standing. Wherever it is that you are in your life, you can start there. And so if there's someone that's working, let's utilize what the benefits are on your job. Let's begin to build a savings or a financial model predicated upon that. And so people were hearing me speak and asking whether or not I would be available, to consult with them. And that's how my practice began. I actually established Harvest Wealth Financial, and I would not suggest anyone does do this with less than $1 million under assets. And so I really grew a business. I started with less than $1 million, and I started slow and steady. I had the experience, I had the level of expertise, and I took it one client at a time, just helping them to build and acquire and accumulate wealth. And that turned the practice into a referral-based business. And so when I began to assist clients, I established my business in 2007. 2008 was the Great Recession. And because I was holding hands with all of my clients, they began to refer individuals that were, disgruntled with their financial advisors. And my business just blossomed as a result of it, because when we went through the great tragedy or the recession of 2008, there were many advisors that they, stopped communicating with their clients. And so that bode well for me over time. And my business began to grow expeditiously after that.
Great, great. Well, good. Sounds like it's worked out really well for you, and your clients are getting a unique experience. Um, Tell us about that. How do you manage client relationships? Do you do reviews with them? and go over their plan, and how often, and how does that all work?
So I open up my practice to every individual, and so if someone ever wants to have a conversation, because I think sometimes people need help, so I do have a team of individuals that will help me, and so people are given the opportunity to come sit with an expert, write out whatever questions that they may have, and then I will tell them this is how you can work with me. And I do have clients that I tell them all the time, I will never call you. I may call you once a year because we're going to set you up with a strategy, a plan of action that makes sense for you. It may be savings, it may be insurance, it may be whatever your needs are, maximizing what you have on your job, but you're in the beginning stages of building. And so those clients are what they are. You know, they have the ability to call me at any given time. They will hear from me every December. I take no new clients in December. All of my existing clients are the ones that I deal with or engage with. Did we achieve our goals? Yes or no? What do we have to do to make an adjustment? And then I have a second set of clients, and those clients are consultant clients. They are desirous of acquiring and accumulating wealth. They have goals of, you know, establishing their own businesses, things of that nature. And so we do holistic. That's probably the bulk of what it is that I do. So it's a client that may work, you know, in a regular traditional 9 to 5 job, but they also have a talent or a gift. And so they will be individuals that go the entrepreneurial route. And so we create that strategic plan so that they can not only accumulate wealth, but protect themselves as they're building their level of wealth. And I tell them, I may not speak to you, you know, a lot, but my commitment to them is at least 4 to 6 times a year, just having conversations. And again, they're able to communicate with me at any given time. I have an open calendar. And then my last set of clients are my managed money clients. I like to engage with individuals, but my managed money clients, they come in, they have a preset amount that is money management. And I deal with the other facets of comprehensive planning. We ensure that they are dealing with legacy. Now, my managed clients, I know their children, I know their grandchildren, I know, you know, what aspects are going on. You know, I know birthdays, holidays, all of those things, right? So we're in constant dialogue or contact overall. It is oftentimes, and I have clients that have been with me from 2007. I now have their children and their grandchildren because I'll tell a grandparent, okay, your kids can't establish a 529 plan, but let you do it as you take out your RMDs. Like we do that level of comprehensive planning. And so you get to know everyone. You get to know the kids. The kids, after a while, need to know. My parents are getting older. Parents need to know. The children are helping me more than they did before. And so it's an open conversation that can be had so that the parents and the children can start to have conversation about money. And I think that that's what has been missing. And so we're at a unique period of time now where we have to start discussing money amongst family members more than ever before. And that's been something that has not always been open dialogue. Parents are the parents, and they said, you know, there's two things that parents are not really willing to talk to their children about. It's their health and their finances. But it's important because you've built up this level of wealth. Baby boomer generation is about to transfer over or already in the early stages of transferring over, you know, the greatest wealth transfer to Generation Xers. You don't want them to squander it. Neither do you want, you know, it to go to healthcare costs. And so that's how, you know, I engage with all of my clients. They usually fit under one of those three umbrellas, and it has worked for me in my practice.
Nice. And you've been a pastor for a number of years as well.
I
And
am.
Micah Ministries, is it?
Micah 7 Ministries, which is actually one of the smaller minor prophets in the Bible. I did prison ministry for almost 20 years. So talking about catastrophic trauma and recovery, I did that for such a long period of time. And one of the things that I tell incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals is that, you know, you can create your own level of wealth. You can, you know, remain, you know, viable if you have a skill or gift or a talent. And a lot of what I do from a charitable perspective, even now, and I partner with the Department of Corrections in this endeavor, is that I help formerly incarcerated individuals establish their own business. It's a great partnership with New Jersey DOC because if you can teach someone how to fish, then we can plan thereafter. And they
Right.
probably have the biggest challenges overall. And so in doing that, I didn't want to just deal with marginalized and disenfranchised individuals. Many individuals have looked to me for guidance and direction over the years. I knew that I had a calling. And so Micah 7 Ministries was established in 2015. And I have an innovative, young congregation of individuals who, much like what I do in financial planning, they are focused on prospering, being in good health, even as their soul prospers. So we have a holistic approach, even in the ministry, where we're dealing with your health, your wealth, and your spiritual, resolve. And so I'm always honored that individuals want to learn, and to be a better person.
Yes. And then you've also had an emphasis on aging and parents, right? And let's talk about that.
So one of the things that I recognized in 2000, and I thought I was going to write a book on it in 2000, is that in my own community, so just to give some statistics, Black CFP representation is less than 1% when I became a certified financial planner in the year of 2000. We are now in the year of 2024, and that number has changed to 1.9%, and that is African Americans and Spanish. And so there are not a lot of experts in the field of comprehensive planning. In my own community, one of the things that you would be able to see is a family that has done well. They purchased their own house, then they aged, they got sick, and then the house would be lost. And so the biggest asset was leaving the community. It was leaving the family dynamics because proper planning had not been done. And so it stuck with me in 2000, but then 2001 happened and my life got forever altered, in terms of where I thought that I would go in business. But it always nagged me that we get to this place of accumulating wealth, but yet we weren't planning properly for the wealth to be transferred from one generation to the next generation. So I began to explore, why is this happening? And so I had an experience where I had to care for my mother who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so the impact of aging parents in the family is a very real impact, whether they're aging or they have an unknown ailment or impediment. And the healthcare system in the United States is not the most ideal. So if you've been successful, you've acquired a house, maybe you've accumulated $200,000-300,000 in a retirement plan and have some small assets, you're not eligible for Medicaid, which is a misnomer. Most people think that they may be. You think Medicare is going to take care of you if you are above 65, and neither of them are true. And so what we need to do is understand that long-term care falls on the family. And that can be very hard. Just dealing with a parent that cannot perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living can have a stressor on their children, who are now called to fill in the gap because they are the unpaid caregivers. And so here you have aging parents, whether they have financial resources or not, is a secondary consideration, but they need care. And who's generally going to care for them? The children. And so now the children don't always have the ability to work at their most formative years and their peak earning years. And so now who's being impacted when the children have to care for their parents? Their children, who are growing up and living life as young children. So 3 generations are being affected by aging parents in a typical family. My goal, my desire has been, and this is a big part of my practice, is to help have difficult conversations between parents and their children. And if you can have that conversation, then you can plan for it. Every scenario in our lives is an issue first and foremost. The second question after the initial issue is, how is this going to affect me financially? And so we want to have a parent be better equipped to deal with these things. Because if your parents, and you're fortunate enough that they are living long lives, 1 out of 2 may suffer some level of dementia at the age of 70. And so they're going to need hands-on care. How does this affect me financially? You do not want one parent to deplete all of the funds that you built together and then not have enough for the second parent. Neither do you want to have all of these assets and you have 4 children, and the moment you're in the grave, they're fighting financially because you didn't outline it. And so a lot of what it is that I do focuses on the quiet shift. And that is really dealing with the emotional and economic impact that aging parents may have on the family.
Nice. It's real leadership, Nicole, and that you're a great example of the industry's best work. We really appreciate it. And we're nearing the end of our discussion, and I really appreciate your sharing all this with us. You've already given a lot of messages, but usually at the end of our discussion, I say, we have an industry out there that's going to hear this, and many clients will hear this as well. Is there a message that you would like to send to everyone in addition to the message you've already sent? Here, this is
Thank you.
your
I
chance.
appreciate right. I think just staying on the importance of focusing on intergenerational wealth, the transference of that wealth from one generation to the next. No parent who love their children want to see their children fall out over money. So then it becomes a responsibility of the parents to be honest with your children who are going to take care of you in your golden years. It's important to talk to them about your health and
Yes.
your wealth. If you do that, then you'll have a greater opportunity to pass on what you've acquired to the next generation so that your family can build and continue to grow. And I think that's the greatest gift a parent could give to their children.
Nice. Yes, it is, and it's great to have someone to shepherd them through that and help them through that, like you. And that's a good function of our industry, and it takes really great leaders like you to do it. So,
Amen.
cool. So thanks everybody. We've been visiting with Nicole B. Simpson in New Jersey, and really unique story, really unique career. And thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for working with the public and taking care of people in the way that you do.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to leave it there, everybody. Thanks for being with us on the Financial Advisors Workshop. And we'll be back again with a very unique story. This is a very unique one we had today. Nicole, thank you again. And we'll be back again with another conversation very shortly. Thanks, everybody, for the Financial Advisors Workshop.